Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. You know it's always exciting to get your source material, and this time you guys have really outdone yourselves. We're diving into meetings this week, and let me tell you, this stuff is gold.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Meetings are like this constant in our work lives, right?
Yeah.
Some are great, super productive, but others, well, we all know those meetings where you just kind of check out mentally.
Totally. So we're going to break down what separates those winning meetings from the ones that feel like they're from another dimension.
Huh?
We'll be focusing on meeting protocols, like the ground rules that make things run smoothly, and then we'll get into meeting minutes, which honestly are more important than most people realize.
Absolutely. You've sent us this really interesting mix of resources, articles about how to have better meetings, how to act in a meeting, even some templates for meeting minutes, like for formal board meetings and then just casual team check-ins, the whole spectrum.
Yeah, and the mission here is to take all this awesome info you guys have shared and boil it down to those golden nuggets you can actually use right away. We're talking about turning your meetings from time sucks into these like powerhouse sessions where things actually get done. That means we're covering everything from the subtle stuff like how to act and be respectful to the nitty-gritty of making sure decisions are recorded and, people actually follow through on what they say they'll do.
So maybe we should start with the basics. What are meeting protocols, really? What do we mean when we say that?
All right, so one of these articles describes meeting protocols as the ways we decide how meetings should work. They're like the guidelines, even the unspoken rules that shape the whole meeting experience. It's how we decide what's important, what order things happen in, and even basic stuff like how people should behave.
Etiquette. Right.
Exactly. Like business meeting etiquette. I know it sounds a bit stuffy, but our sources are making a strong case that good etiquette isn't just about being polite. It's actually super important for creating a professional and respectful atmosphere. And when people feel respected and valued, they communicate better.
I see what you mean. It's like if you feel comfortable and you're not worried about someone being rude or disrespectful, you can really focus on what's being discussed, right?
Yeah, and when people communicate effectively, it leads to better decisions and more productivity. So etiquette isn't just this fluffy thing. It has a real impact on the bottom line.
Okay, so I'm convinced good meeting etiquette is important. Where do we even start?
Well, one article has these 10 etiquette rules for meetings that every professional should know.
10. Wow.
It might seem like a lot, but they're actually pretty straightforward. We can start with the first one, being on time. Seems basic, right?
Right.
But
Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone's busy, schedules are packed, and it's easy to run late. But being on time really shows respect for everyone else's time.
exactly. And when someone's late, it disrupts the flow. It can throw the whole agenda off, which makes the meeting run longer, and then people have to rush to their next thing.
Yeah.
It's like a domino effect of inefficiency.
Totally. And speaking of respect, another big one is introductions.
Oh, yeah, especially if there are new people in the meeting or people from different departments who might not know each other.
Even if everyone knows each other, it can be really helpful to quickly go around and have everyone say their name and what they do. It just kind of reminds everyone why they're there and what their role is in this particular meeting.
Makes sense. And then there's something both sources were super passionate about, the agenda.
Ah, the agenda. Some might think it's a bit old school, but a good agenda is like the roadmap for a successful meeting, isn't it?
It is. It tells everyone what's going to be discussed, why it's important, and how long we're going to spend on each topic. It helps people prepare beforehand so they can come ready to contribute. Plus, it helps keep the meeting on track and prevents those random tangents that eat up everyone's time.
Our sources even suggest that it can be really helpful to have a printed agenda, like an actual piece of paper. It sounds kind of old school, I guess.
I know, right? But it can be really helpful for taking notes or just making sure everyone's literally on the same page. It makes the whole thing feel more organized and structured.
Okay, I like it. What else is on this list?
Well, there's sitting appropriately. Although, to be honest, none of the sources really get into specifics about like posture or anything.
Yeah, I guess that's more about just being aware of your body language and how you're presenting yourself.
And speaking up is a big one. It seems obvious, but it's important for everyone to participate and share their ideas.
Right, because a business meeting is really just a gathering of minds with the goal of moving the company forward. And if people aren't sharing their thoughts and ideas, then you're not getting the full benefit of all those brains in the room.
The list also mentions understanding those unwritten speaking rules. It doesn't give specific examples, but it's probably about things like not interrupting others, letting everyone have their say, and keeping your comments relevant to the topic at hand.
It's about respecting the flow of conversation.
Exactly. And last but not least, we got to talk about phones. Our sources are pretty adamant about this one. Phones should be out of sight during meetings.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been in meetings where someone's phone keeps buzzing or they're constantly checking it. It's super distracting.
Right. And it just shows a lack of respect for the other people in the room.
Yeah.
It sends the message that whatever's on your phone is more important than the meeting itself.
Okay, so those 10 etiquette rules are a great starting point. But our sources also talk about something called standing orders for meetings, which sounds a bit formal.
It does sound kind of official, but it's actually just a fancy way of saying agreed upon rules and procedures. It's like the meeting rule book that an organization sets for itself. It covers things like when meetings are held, how much notice people need before a meeting, who has to attend which meetings, and how decisions are made.
So each organization would have its own set of standing orders.
Exactly. It's all about tailoring things to the specific needs and culture of the company.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the purpose of having all these procedures, though?
Well, for boards especially, it's about making sure everything is run smoothly and fairly. It ensures everyone has the info they need to participate, that the meeting time is used wisely, and that there's a clear process for making decisions that, could affect the whole company.
It's about transparency and accountability.
Exactly. And one article really highlights that when these protocols and etiquette are in place, it creates an environment where everyone feels respected and heard. And that respect ultimately leads to better communication, which is the foundation of productive meetings.
It's interesting how these sources all emphasize respect as a key ingredient in successful meetings. Respect for everyone's time, contributions, and perspectives.
It's so true. In fact, our sources are pretty clear that a lack of this basic respect, along with, just poor planning, is one of the main reasons meetings fail. They end up being unproductive, time-wasting sessions that don't really accomplish anything.
Okay, so we've talked about how to behave in meetings and how to structure them. Now let's get to the strategies for making them truly productive. One source has a pretty bold statement. It claims that companies can save money and improve productivity by having fewer meetings.
Fewer meetings, huh? That sounds almost too good to be true.
Right. But the catch is, they say the meetings you do have need to be super effective.
Okay, so how do we make sure those meetings are actually worth everyone's time? What are the secrets to making meetings count?
Well, first things first, only have a meeting if it's absolutely necessary. Before automatically scheduling a meeting, our sources encourage teams to think, is there a better way to do this? Can we solve this over email or a quick chat?
It's about being mindful of everyone's time. Don't call a meeting if you can accomplish the same thing in a less time-consuming way.
Exactly. And if a meeting is necessary, be strategic about who you invite.
Yeah.
It's tempting to include everyone who might be interested, but
That often backfires.
yeah.
You end up with a huge group where some people are just sitting there, not really engaged.
Right. It's better to have a smaller group with just the key people who are directly involved in the topic. Our sources say this keeps the discussion focused and productive. What about having a facilitator?
Oh yeah, a meeting facilitator can be a game changer. They're basically the person who makes sure everything runs smoothly, they keep the meeting on track, make sure everyone gets a chance to speak, and keep things moving according to the agenda. They're like the referee, making sure everyone plays fair and stays on topic.
Gotcha. And then there are those little practical things that can make a big difference.
Like making sure the tech works.
Exactly. Test the projector, the screen, the video conferencing software, whatever you're using. Doing that before the meeting starts can save you so much time and frustration.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been in meetings where half the time is wasted trying to get the tech working.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that can save time and make things smoother, what about the agenda?
Oh, right. We talked about that earlier. But it's worth repeating because it's so crucial. Sending out the agenda in advance, like at least a day before the meeting, gives everyone a chance to prepare. And then having that agenda there during the meeting, maybe even with time estimates for each item, can really help keep things on track.
It's all about setting clear expectations and providing a framework for the discussion.
Okay, so we've talked about preparation and etiquette. What about what happens during the meeting? What can we do to make sure it's productive and that we actually achieve something?
Well, this is where meeting minutes come in. Taking notes, recording decisions, and assigning action items, all that good stuff.
Right, because a productive meeting isn't just about talking, it's about making decisions and then actually doing something with those decisions.
Absolutely. Our sources are super clear about that. They say the most effective meetings end with everyone understanding what was decided, what needs to be done, who's responsible for each action, and when those actions need to be completed.
So taking good meeting minutes is basically about translating talk into action.
Exactly. And it's not just about scribbling down random notes. The sources recommend focusing on key facts, the main issues that were addressed, the decisions that were made, any action plans, and any important questions that were raised, along with their answers.
It's like a structured record of the meeting. What about technology? Can we use technology to make this process easier?
Absolutely. One source actually mentions something called Allegra, which is a software platform that combines note-taking with task management. You can basically link your meeting notes to tasks, automatically assign people responsible, and set deadlines, all in one system.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Seems like it could really help with accountability and making sure things don't fall through the cracks.
Right. And then there are some other strategies for making the most of meeting time, like making sure everyone gets a chance to participate, even those who might be a bit shy or less vocal.
Yeah, sometimes those quieter voices have the best ideas, so it's important to create space for them.
And setting time limits for each agenda item can be helpful. It keeps the discussion focused and prevents one topic from dominating the whole meeting. Plus, let's be honest, most people's attention spans start to fade after about an hour, so aiming for shorter meetings is usually a good idea.
Makes sense. And it's important to create a sense of continuity between meetings. One source emphasizes the importance of reviewing action items from previous meetings at the start of each new meeting, just to make sure everyone's on the same page and things are moving forward.
It's a quick way to make sure nothing gets forgotten and everyone stays accountable.
Right, it's about follow-through. And finally, starting the meeting on the right foot can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Taking a moment to make introductions, thank everyone for being there, and go over any ground rules can create a more positive and focused environment.
It's about setting the tone for a collaborative and productive discussion. Okay, so we've covered a lot about how to conduct meetings effectively, but what happens after the meeting ends? That's where meeting minutes come in, right?
Exactly. Meeting minutes are the official record of what happened during the meeting. They're not just notes. They're a formal document that outlines the key decisions that were made, the actions that were agreed upon, and who's responsible for what.
So they're super important for accountability and for keeping everyone on track. One source breaks down the whole process of creating meeting minutes into 5 steps. Pre-planning, taking notes during the meeting, writing up the minutes, distributing them, and then filing them for future reference. Seems pretty thorough.
It is, and it ensures that everything's captured accurately and completely. And usually, there's a designated person responsible for taking meeting minutes.
Like a secretary or an administrative assistant?
Exactly, someone who's organized, detail-oriented, and good at capturing the essence of a discussion.
We even got a sample template for meeting minutes in our sources, which could be super helpful for people who are new to this or just want a good starting point.
Yeah, the template's pretty straightforward. It starts with the basic info, like the organization's name, the date of the meeting, and the time it started and ended.
It also has a section for listing all the attendees and anyone who is absent.
Right, so you have a clear record of who was there and who wasn't. Then it gets into the formal stuff, like approving the agenda and the minutes from the previous meeting.
Then there are sections for business from the previous meeting, which is for follow-up items and decisions from the last meeting, and new business, where you document all the new topics and outcomes from the current meeting. Oh, and there's also a section for any additions to the agenda that might have come up during the meeting.
It's super organized. And finally, it has a section for recording the adjournment, which is basically just noting the time the meeting officially ended, who adjourned the meeting, and when and where the next meeting is scheduled.
That template's actually really helpful. It breaks down the whole process into manageable chunks.
Yeah, it makes it less daunting. Speaking of making things easier, our sources also emphasize the importance of pre-planning, even before the meeting starts.
Pre-planning, like for the minutes.
Exactly. The person taking the minutes should talk to the meeting chair beforehand, go over the agenda, and discuss what they expect to be covered. That way, the note-taker can be prepared and organized going into the meeting.
Makes sense. And they should definitely use the agenda as their guide for taking notes. That way, the minutes will follow the same logical flow as the meeting itself. It's also important to make sure they're keeping track of who's attending, any documents that are shared, and, any other relevant details.
Right. It's all about capturing a complete and accurate record of what happened. And it's good for the minute taker to clarify with the chair beforehand how detailed they want the minutes to be. Do they want a word-for-word account of everything or just a summary of the key points?
Oh, and if there are formal motions or voting, they need to make sure they're capturing all those details accurately. Who proposed the motion, who seconded it, and the outcome of the vote. They even mention Robert's Rules of Order, which is a whole system for running formal meetings.
Yeah, Robert's rules can be a bit complex, but it's a good resource to have if your organization uses that system.
Mm.
So to summarize, good meeting minutes should include the date and time, the list of attendees and absentees, whether the previous meeting's minutes were approved, a clear record of all decisions made on each agenda item.
Including any actions that were agreed upon, next steps, voting results, and any motions that were passed or rejected.
Exactly. Plus, any items that were postponed, new business that came up, and the date and time of the next meeting. It's a lot to keep track of, but it's essential for having a reliable record.
Okay, so we know what to include, but what about how to write good meeting minutes? Are there any tips or best practices?
Oh yeah, our sources have tons of great advice for that. One of the biggest things is to write the minutes as soon as possible after the meeting, while everything's still fresh in your mind.
Yeah, because trying to reconstruct everything a week later can be a nightmare. And it's a good idea to review any notes you took during the meeting and clarify anything that's unclear.
And for board meetings, it can be helpful to include a brief explanation of the reasoning behind key decisions, especially if there was a lot of discussion or debate, just to give some context for future reference.
Makes sense. So what about the writing style? Are there any guidelines for that?
The sources emphasize keeping the language clear, concise, and objective. Stick to the facts, avoid personal opinions, and generally only use people's names when recording motions.
Okay, so no editorializing or adding your own commentary.
Exactly. And if you're referencing documents, just indicate where they can be found or attach them to the minutes. Don't try to summarize them. It's just going to bog things down.
Good to know. One source even has a little list of meeting minute best practices.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so they recommend creating an outline based on the agenda before the meeting starts. That way you have a structure for your notes.
Super helpful. What else?
Check off attendees as they arrive to keep track of who's there. And this one's crucial. Record decisions and action items as they happen, noting who's responsible and what the deadlines are.
It's all about capturing those details in real time so nothing gets lost in the shuffle.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask for clarification if something's unclear. It's better to ask during the meeting than to try to figure it out later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And remember, you don't need to transcribe every single word. Just focus on the key decisions, actions, and next steps.
One source even suggests recording the meeting, which can be really helpful for clarifying any doubts or filling in gaps in your notes later on.
It's a great idea, but it's important to get everyone's consent before you start recording, to be respectful of everyone's privacy.
Definitely. So once the minutes are written, they usually need to be approved at the next meeting. It's a way of making sure everything's accurate and everyone agrees with the record.
Right. And it's also good practice for the board chair or the meeting leader to review and approve the minutes before they're distributed to everyone.
So how do people usually share meeting minutes these days? Is it still all about those big, bulky binders?
Not anymore. Our sources talk about all sorts of digital options. You can create a PDF and email it, share it through Google Docs, or use cloud-based platforms like Wild Apricot, which are specifically designed for membership organizations. Yeah, it's a really cool platform for managing all sorts of things for nonprofits, including meetings and communication.
Cool. And there are also specific software tools designed just for meeting minutes.
Oh yeah, like Agredo and Minutes.io. They often have features like collaborative note-taking, audio recording, and even fancy shortcuts to make the process faster and more efficient.
That's awesome. Makes taking minutes sound almost fun. But what about storing all those minutes? Do we really need to keep them forever?
Well, it's important to have a system for filing and storing meeting minutes, whether it's online storage with backups or good old-fashioned hard copies. That way you can easily access them later if you need to refer back to a decision or clarify something.
So, to wrap things up, it seems like meeting minutes are more than just a boring formality. They're a really important tool for accountability, tracking progress, and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely. They're a record of the meeting's essence, the decisions made, the actions agreed upon, and who's doing what. They're also a valuable reference for anyone who wasn't able to attend the meeting so they can catch up on what happened.
And it's interesting to learn that the word minutes in meeting minutes doesn't actually refer to time. It comes from the word minute, meaning a small or brief note. So it's really about capturing those concise, essential details.
Yeah, that's a cool little language fact. And it reminds us that meeting minutes should be focused and to the point, not these rambling, overly detailed accounts of everything that was said.
Right, they're meant to be useful, not just a verbatim transcript of every word spoken.
So as we can see from all this awesome material you guys sent, effective meetings don't just happen. They require planning, a focus on etiquette and respect, and careful documentation through meeting minutes.
And if you put in the effort to implement these strategies, you can transform your meetings from those dreaded time wasters into productive decision-making sessions that actually move your team forward.
It's about making meetings work for you, not against you. And on that note, here's a question for everyone listening. If you could change just one thing about your current meeting protocols, what would it be? What small tweak could have the biggest positive impact on your team's productivity? It's something to think about, as you go back to your own work in those inevitable meetings.
Great question. It's been fascinating diving into all this material with you. Thank you so much for sharing these resources.
And everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained some valuable insights. Until next time, happy meeting.